Well, good morning. I will call our December meeting of Central Oklahoma Transportation Parking Authority to order. I don't have any particular items right now. Do we have any citizens to be heard? I thought you were here last meeting.
Seems like it. Bad news back.
Oh. Come up here for a minute. You always make us feel good because you say good things about us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be in your midst again. I am Michael Hinton, as you folks know this from your face, from 1729 Northwest 3rd Street, Oklahoma City, 73106, and come to share with you some really interesting comments. Had a most interesting and edifying meeting with CityLink liaison, Mr. Chip Mullen, which folks might be familiar with. We were in Edmond yesterday, met at his office, learned some interesting things. How, first of all, how CityLink is being funded, and they're looking at a study maybe for funding increase and how that may be. And so we discussed, Mr. Mullen and I discussed how that may come about. And again, it's going to be we the public, you folks are providing, this is our service, public transit, and we're going to have to get involved more than ever. But I, as a citizen, is making my best effort to get the word out. And like you heard at the last meeting, that I'm serving as a secular evangelist for as public transportation that is concerned. And something else that Mr. Mullen and I discussed yesterday, and he was not aware of, that I've been getting the word out to a lot of the motorists and people who use public transit, the park and ride facilities like Walmart, Lowe's, Target, and Mr. Mullen was not aware is that people can get substantial discount on the insurance rates. He was not aware of that, so he said he's 110% supportive of me of getting the word out to people, and let's start getting some ridership increases on our bus routes. Another issue that really was some concern, and he agreed with me wholeheartedly, is that Social Security, which used to be in Shepherd Mall, which all of us know, moved to Northwest 122nd and Kelly, and to my surprise, I didn't find this out yesterday, me and other members of the public, we were under the impression that Social Security office was that it was bought outright and they built their own building. Well, to my surprise, folks, is that a private entity from Edmond, Oklahoma had that building built, and so Social Security packed up, moved bags out of Shepherd Mall, and now they're still paying rent at taxpayers' expense. So that is not a government-owned facility. So Mr. Mullen and I, we talked that over, and I asked him what, as a member of the public, can do. And, of course, we agreed that he says, well, Michael, get out and campaign and spread the word and do what you have to do. Because it has been, this is a major concern with CityLink, is because the inconvenience now is people getting there to Social Security office, and if you're not there by a certain time, and if you got an appointment that's only like 10 to 15 minutes that your caseworker sees you, well, you're sitting out there for an hour and 30 minutes. There's no bus coming through there, and certainly no embark bus. So what you want to do is sit there and twiddle your thumbs, you know? I mean, this is the drama that it's come out to. And when it was at Shepherd Mall, embark, we had the convenience. Route 7, 8, or 23, we had easy access. So it's a case of, of course, it's not a fault of Embark, it's not a fault of CityLink, because, again, we got bureaucracy. If it's already fixed, well, if it's not broken, they're still going to try to fix it. So that's what we're dealing with right now, CityLink. So anyway, folks, Mr. Mullen and I will be working together in days to come. As a matter of fact, I'll eventually get your name right, Mr. Fabrush. I'm sending some other inputs to your email address that you should get later on today, and some other constructive inputs, but in the interest of time here. And I just want to share with you folks is that just recently, on a personal note, my 64th birthday, and I'm just thankful to the Almighty God that I made it this far, because I am an 8-time survivor, and it ain't over till it's over. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, there a motion to approve our minutes of our November 7th meeting? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We've got 4 items on our consent docket. Are there any of the items that any of the trustees would like any discussion on? If not, I'd have a motion to approve our consent docket. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Items for individual consideration. Item A is consideration of approval of a contract with Downey Contracting for steel beam coating project at the Century Center parking garage. So,
Surprise you there. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, if you remember, we last board meeting we had did the approval for the RFP, and this is just to refresh your memory. It's to remove the fireproofing in the -2 level and then coat those and paint them. The fireproofing is no longer needed because the other developer has put in a fire suppression system, so we're just removing all of that stuff and cleaning them up, cleaning up the beams. So we received 3 bids, as you can see. Downey $274,000, Lippert and WL McNatt, with Downey being the lowest bid. So Triad has recommended we go with the low bid of $274,400.
while you're up here, why don't you just give us a little update on the garage and the progress?
It's going really well. Actually, our part is almost finished. They're working on the north helicline right now. So as soon as that's done, we did our final punch list last week, went through all the different levels and floors and the stairwell. So it's just the helicline now that we're waiting on.
When will we be able to open it up to the...
You know, our contractor will probably be out in the next couple of weeks, but until the other contractors are finished, working on the outside where it presents some kind of danger to our parkers, I've been kind of holding off. We're going to have to run the shuttle anyway, so that's why we've been kind of waiting. And now with this work that needs to be done in -2, that's, going to extend it a little bit longer as well.
So you really think we're going to have to wait till it's almost completed, the building, before we can allow parkers back in?
I would think once they're finished working on the facade and the outside, and they're just mostly concentrated on the inside as far as their build-outs, and I think we can go ahead and park, bring people back in.
All right. Thank you.
So, are you going to...
Any questions? No?
Oh.
All right. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve item A?
Move approval of the contract.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item B is approval of amendment number 3 to tap the architectural partnership for the Arts District parking garage. I guess, Debbie, you got comments on that?
Yes, this is to amend the contract. In the original contract, there was a discussion in the contract for reimbursables, but there was not a dollar amount assigned to it. So all we're doing is assigning a dollar amount for the reimbursables of not to exceed $15,000. And this is for cost for like permits and different things like that that's come up during the project.
All right. There a motion to approve item B? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item C is change order number 9 to the contract with Flintco for the Arts District parking garage.
Yes, change order 9 has 10 items, and as you can see, most of these are just kind of cleanup items that we were either required by the fire marshal or Project 180 coordination of things that kind of last minute as we've been completing the garage. Most notably, I guess the most expensive ones are to install the fire extinguishers at each level with $16,000, and then I believe there's another one here for a little more than that, or right around that, so. But the total cost, the total for change order number 9 was $44,291, which still represents an increase of 0.21% of the original contract. And with all the change orders, we're now at 3.99% over original contract, making the new contract amount now $21,508,481.22.
What was the original estimate?
The original contract amount was for $20,671,000.
And then, Mr. Chairman, just to add to that quickly, to give you a sense of where we are in terms of available bond proceeds, if you'll recall, the actual bond proceeds were about $21,750,000 in that range. So in terms of, we're looking at 9 change orders now with this garage, but we're still within the available proceeds for the construction.
Yes.
Okay. All right, do you have a motion to approve item C? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item D is a consideration of approval of updates to the rider conduct and exclusion policy. Jason?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to talk just quickly about this item. Back a year ago, last November, the board approved our rider conduct and exclusion policy. This was the first time we had actually had a policy like this in place, where it really kind of enabled us to be able to enforce some of the rules that we have for our customers when they're riding our buses. And so with the policy being into effect for a year, our staff has worked very hard to enforce the policy. I think they've done a good job in managing that. But at the same time, since it was a new policy to us, we decided it would be a good idea to take a look at it and just see, okay, after a year of it being in place, what are some changes that we might want to make? And so these are really just kind of housekeeping changes, most of them. The one thing I will point out is for the level 1 infractions, we are extending the minimum exclusion time from 7 days to 45 days. And I'll just say, if you'll look at the policy and, those rules in that level 1 category, we have not had to exclude anybody from using our service for, breaking any of these rules. Generally, these are things that our security officers can handle if something like this comes up. But again, just thinking about the purpose of the policy, and it is to be able to enforce the rules, we thought it was more appropriate to extend that minimum time to 45 days in the event that we have someone that just continually seems to have an issue following one or more of these rules. Other than that, the housekeeping items are basically just clarifying in the policy that if someone is suspended from using our service, the letter will come from myself or my designee. We changed the location of the hearing to the 2000 South May facility, and that's just about it.
Yeah, I think if the trustees want, the highlighted areas of change are indicated in the minute.
Quick question. Are these
Yes, sir.
rules posted someplace so that the public has access to them when they walk onto any of our entities?
Yeah, we do not have this entire document obviously available. We do have the general rules and code of conduct. There's a sign posted at the transit center. These rules are available on our website, and we have been talking with our marketing folks to help us put together a brochure that kind of summarizes these rules that we can make available on the bus. We do not have those yet on the buses.
Is there the possibility that we could do a posting board, something big and in your face that could be on a wall or someplace so that it's obvious that these are the rules? And I guess Marcia would be the person to ask, is it necessary that people be aware of what the rules are in order to be expected to abide by those rules?
On our posted rules, if they comply with those, they would not violate any of the written policy. So I think we're fine on that. But it would be a good idea to post them. We can post them. but if they comply with the rules that are posted presently, they would not violate any of the policy.
Okay.
It's more of a procedure, the policy is more of a procedure that once you violate a posted rule, how you appeal the exclusion.
Okay. I'm just want to make sure that folks don't, it doesn't come back to bite us, that folks say, I didn't know what the rule was. The fact is, if the rules are posted, then you have the opportunity to know what the rules are, and you're expected to abide by those rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a sign at the transit center, I'd say roughly maybe 3 by 5, maybe a little bit smaller, but I mean, it's a sizable sign right at the entrance that, hits most of these rules.
All right. Thank you. Hear a motion to approve item D?
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item E is consideration of approval of an amendment to the substance abuse policy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is an amendment to the substance abuse policy that we, as a transit agency, are required to have. We recently had a FTA drug and alcohol audit, and we actually did pretty well on that audit. They did have some recommendations for us, though, on how to improve our policy. And again, this is a red line version of the changes, but the memo itself kind of covers some of the changes that we're making to the policy. As you can see, a lot of them, again, are kind of housekeeping items in that they suggested we clarify in our policy, for example, that a person has to be cleared with a negative drug test result before we can put them to work. Well, that's something we do in practice anyway. It's just kind of spelling that out more in our policy. There's some other things, such as clarifying the title of a substance abuse professional as a substance abuse counselor, amending some of our testing procedures. So again, it's just kind of some housekeeping items. And then one of the requirements or recommendations from the audit was to amend our drug and alcohol policy with what you have before you today.
All right. But, I mean, once we amend it, then they're going to, I'm sure, feel fine with it, with their suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. We will send this amended policy to them. In fact, I believe they've already received a draft of it.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve item E? All in favor? Opposed? Two more items. Item F is a contract with Bicycle Transit Systems for management of the Spokies Bike Share Program. And I think we've had some discussions on the expansion of this project, but if you have anything you need to say about this.
Okay. Yeah, just quickly, again, back in July, the board approved an agreement to take over the management administration of the city's bike share program, Spokies. And since inception, or I should say since our decision to take that over, the objective has been eventually to find a contractor, somebody that manages these bike share programs in other places across the nation, to come in and assist us with managing our bike share operation. And so we ended up issuing bids on July 18th. On October the 3rd, the board approved our recommendation to select Bicycle Transit Systems as the provider, and this item here will approve that contract. The cost is $154,539 annually for the first year. One of the things that we did on this contract that I thought was helpful is we basically locked in a flat management fee separate from the reimbursable expenses, so that fee is not in any way tied to the expenses, and have a firm budget that the contractor, if they exceed the expenditure budget, will have to receive our approval in order to do so. So with that, I think that covers most of the information in the item. While we're talking about Spokies, the next item, item G, is kind of a companion item in that when we initially received the bids for the bike share management program, Bicycle Transit Systems had a certain amount of startup costs in that bid, and that was for office space, a vehicle to be able to transport and move the bikes around. In fact, they originally had $48,000 worth of startup costs in that original bid. Staff did a good job of negotiating that. We were able to reduce those startup costs virtually to just the cost of a vehicle. So the contractor, rather than requiring outside office space, they will move into Union Station. We won't have any of that expense. And then again, rather than funding them purchasing a vehicle, we have decided to purchase the vehicle ourselves and maintain it and let them use it. So that's kind of the companion item there of G is approving a purchase of a Ford Transit van for that purpose.
Wasn't there some discussion in July about this new people who are going to provide new bicycles or I can't remember the discussion in all that.
Yeah, and what we're looking at is, we're expecting to glean the expertise of this contractor to help us with a lot of things. One is a more robust maintenance plan for the bicycles themselves, reconditioning some of the bikes, looking at purchasing new bikes, and is there a better bike out there than what we're currently using? Even the way that the bikes are secured to the kiosks and the signage that gives people instructions on how to use the system. So, yeah, they're going to be taking a hard look at everything that we're doing.
Okay. Quick question. I should probably know this, but how long have we been running this program here?
Just since July, this fiscal year, just since the start of this fiscal year.
Has there been any shrinkage related to it? Shrinkage being bikes not reappearing when they're supposed to reappear?
I believe since July we have lost 2 bikes. 2 bikes. Yep, Jeannie's confirming that for me. 2 bikes.
Okay, and then a statement. You touched on this in your remarks there, but the acquisition of new bikes. I'm a biker, and so having used the bikes downtown, my age and physical condition sometimes keep me from making some of those hills down there. Mm-hmm. Is there the possibility that as we acquire new inventory, that we could acquire bikes that give the rider a little bit more control over the effort that has to go into getting those things going and keeping them going? I don't know whether we could maybe get those electronically assisted bikes or bikes that have gears on them or something that would make it a little bit easier for a guy in my age group to be able to get down there and ride someplace and then be able to have fun after I get there, because by the time we got to where we were going, I was pretty tired and it upset my wife a bunch.
Well, we are posting new procedures. You have to be under 25 to ride them. So I'm like that.
But yes, bikes with gears has been a topic of discussion, and that'll be something we'll be visiting with this new contractor about in terms of getting recommendations from them.
All right. There are motions, since we've discussed both items, a motion to approve item F and G.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next item are claims and payroll. We don't normally have any questions on that, but if anybody does, we can answer, and if not, I would have a motion to ratify. All in favor? Opposed? Our financial reports. Budget to actual for the 4 months, which ended October 31st. Any items? And we had a finance meeting yesterday, and I told Jason this morning it was very helpful to learn about the trust fund and some of the funds that we don't discuss very often, and to know what goes into them and what comes out of them. So I don't know if you need to discuss that today, but any items on the financials that you might like to make mention of?
Sure. I'll just touch real quickly on the financial reports, beginning with the transit system report. Looking at our operating revenues, overall, we are about 2.5% above our budgeted amount on operating revenues. Most of that is coming from our fare box and our paratransit fare revenue. That's what's pushing us up over the budgeted amount. You'll notice federal grant revenues are just slightly over budget, and again, that's just that's a timing thing, that's a reimbursable grant, so for all intents and purposes, that's very close to what we would anticipate at this time of year. The other grant revenue that you see coming in under budget at about $10,800 is due to basically timing of money we receive from the area-wide aging agency that supports some of our special service programs. Basically, it's just coming in a little bit slower than what it did last year, and we base our budget over the previous year's experience. And then the other revenue you'll see is $13,000 over target, and that's attributable to our advertising revenue being up about 6%. On the operating expenditure side, we're overall about 10% under budget on our operating expenditures, and you can see that most of that is due to personnel costs being considerably under. Now, keep in mind, none of these expenses reflect the additional evening service and the additional positions that will soon be incurring expenses for that evening service beginning the end of January. So we'll see this number, start to come back more in line with the budget as the year goes on. Looking over next page on the parking financials, again, operating revenues are under budget. And again, this is attributable to the fact that the Arts District Garage was delayed. The opening of the Arts District Garage was delayed. We had a full year's worth of revenue programmed into the budget. On the operating expenditures, we're under budget there as well. We're actually about 12% under budget. And I think, the important thing to take away from the parking financial is that even though we are under budget on revenues, we're also under budget on our operating expenses, and even tying in our debt service obligation that we have budgeted to this point, we're still $132,000 to the positive. So the Arts District Garage revenues, when we start seeing them be received, that'll be on our November financial statement. So we'll see those numbers start to change quite a bit. And then looking at the river operation quickly, it's very similar to the information that I had shared last month. Operating revenues, however, are currently about $4,500 under target. We were slightly over target, I believe, when we looked at this in November. The operating expenditures are about 6% over target, and again, that's comparable to where we were at this time last month, and that's driven by fuel purchases and advertising. And that's all I have on the financial reports.
Any questions by any of the trustees? The pension, the financial report, the pension, then we'll approve all the financial reports at once. I don't know if there's anything you need to say about that, but all right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Our program reports. Our first one is our transit system report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll talk briefly about our transit system report. I'd like to, as normal, begin talking about our fixed route ridership Monday through Friday, and I'll give it just a minute here. We could get the graph pulled up so you can take a look at that. But similar to what we've been looking at in previous months is a graph that will just give you an idea of what our average daily ridership has been for each of the months since implementing our route changes back in April of this year. And so again, we have a very positive story to share with you in terms of average daily ridership on our Monday through Friday fixed route service. We've continued to exceed the prior month's average daily totals. In October, we actually averaged about 11,602 passenger trips per day on our fixed route service. That's about a 10% increase over our average from the previous year, and that's right on the heels of our September numbers, which showed about a 12% increase in that average daily ridership. So September and October have been really strong months for us in terms of ridership on the fixed route service and exceeding, the performance that we had the previous year. So that is a positive trend that continues. If we look at our fixed route ridership on Saturday, it was relatively flat at about 4,700 passenger trips. And then looking at our Discovery service, and you can see this in your report, we kind of had a little bit of a mixed bag there in that our weekday service on Discovery was down from the previous year. We averaged 187 passenger trips per day compared to 271. Our Saturday Discovery service, on the other hand, was consistent with where we were last year at about 243 passenger trips per day. So when you look cumulatively at our fixed route ridership, in October we exceeded the 1 million passenger trip mark. We're through 4 months of the fiscal year, we're at 1,075,724 passenger trips. That's about 64,000 more than where we were at this point the previous year. So when you look at that cumulatively, that's about a 6% increase. And so we continue to be cautious, saying, we can't say we really have a trend yet, but I think it's certainly positive that we've seen about a 6% increase to this point. So very, very pleased with that. And I think, it speaks to the plan that we had, and I think also it speaks highly to our operators and our route supervisors that are out there making it happen on the streets and adapting to the new schedules and the new routes. So moving forward, looking at our cumulative system ridership, all services, this includes our paratransit, includes our social services, we are at roughly 1.2 million passenger trips in total through October. And then digging a little bit deeper into some of the other services we have, our Embark Plus, our paratransit service, we continue to talk about increases in demand for that service. Again, through the first part of this fiscal year, through 4 months, we've provided almost 17,000 passenger trips. That's about a 6% increase from where we were last year on our paratransit. So continue to see demands on the social services side as well, particularly with the paratransit. Looking at our road calls and accidents, our road calls were good in October. We averaged 18,776 miles between road calls. This is the indicator that we use to kind of determine the health of our fleet. If we compare that back to last October, we actually averaged about 25,000 miles between road calls. I think we're comparing back to an unusually good month a year ago, because we typically average about 15, 16 of those major breakdowns that go into this number. And October, we had about 16 of these major breakdowns, which is in line with what our average is. And then on our accidents, we had 4 preventable accidents and 4 non-preventable accidents. And again, similar to the story I shared with you last month, none of these preventable accidents are significant in that, a lot of them are very minor in nature. But it is a higher number than we like to report. There's been many months when I've been able to report that we've had 1 or 2 or no preventable accidents. And now we've seen 2 consecutive months where we've had a 5, and now we've had a 4. So I have met and talked with our safety officer, and we are looking at a month-long safety campaign just to kind of bring everybody back in and make, not that we don't make safety a focus, but have a special campaign just to try to reel these preventable accidents in. So we're certainly aware of that. We did just finish up a round of quarterly safety meetings. We do that once a quarter, and so we're hoping that this is just kind of a couple of off months, and we'll be able to get those numbers back in line.
We're talking about training or retraining, right?
Right.
All right.
Jason, can I ask a question on the
Sure.
MetroLink or Embark Link?
Yes.
It's called.
Yes.
And again, the ridership is drastically down, and that's because we changed what we were charging, I believe. Did we experience a equally tremendous savings in the cost of running the program? Or is the cost the same whether we're servicing the 10,000 people versus the 5,000 people this year?
Right. With the way our contract is set up, we're actually still paying very similar
We really haven't
amount.
experienced
So
any savings. We just, ridership's down because we equalized a...
Right.
Is there anything that we can do to maybe provide the service another way?
Yeah, there is, and we have looked at options. In fact, we would like to try to make some changes to MetroLink, or I should say EmbarkLink, at about the same time we implement our evening service. We have met with the contractor, now it's been several months actually, but we have identified some alternate locations where we could potentially add additional designated stops. So we have kind of went through the motions of saying, okay, ridership is down. Now that we're not getting as many reservations, where were people catching the bus when the reservations were at a cheaper rate? And can we put stops in those areas to try to accommodate people that maybe now are reluctant to pay that comparable fee that we charge for our paratransit service? So yeah, what I would expect is we'll be adding additional or moving stops and integrating that more with our evening service.
And that'll happen in January then?
I don't know that it will be able to happen in January, certainly within the first quarter of the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
The paratransit service is how we move folks around who are negatively impacted physically somehow, right?
That's right.
Is there a way for us to get that cost defrayed or deferred a little bit through those entities that provide ongoing services for those folks? Voc rehab services, those folks who have a vested interest in moving those people around in the marketplace.
Yeah, I don't know to try to approach some of those agencies to help support our operating costs. I mean, it's not something that we've ever really done. Now, on the other side of that, aside from paratransit, we do have organizations, particularly like the Area-Wide Aging Agency, that provides funding for us to provide some of our other social services, but not paratransit.
I guess I'm wondering if, because those other agencies have a vested interest in making sure that those folks are able to get where they need to be when they need to be there, then perhaps that vested interest could be, and I don't know how to exactly say this, and that's unusual for me, that somehow or another we can get those folks to participate a little bit more in the economics involved with getting those folks around. I don't want the cost of being able to get where I need to be the overriding reason why I'm not going where I need to be. You understand what I'm saying? Am I saying that?
Right. And keeping in mind, too, for, we have, half price fares for, we have the special patron rate for many of the users of our paratransit service. So I understand what you're saying about in terms of we certainly don't want to make it a cost to where I can't afford to get to my doctor's appointment, for example. And so we have programs that cut the fare in half in some instances. So
most of those nonprofits are struggling to stay around, and they don't look real kindly when the government comes in and asks for some additional participation when it's already government subsidized. But we can pursue it.
Jason, I have
Yes.
one question on the percent of on-time bus arrivals. That seems to be low.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. Yeah, that is essentially our baseline in terms of where we're at with on-time performance. We have totally changed the way that we are measuring our on-time performance. Up until, I guess, within the last 2 months, actually, our on-time performance was measured basically by just kind of some random sampling or what we would consider to be time checks, just supervisors out in the field saying, did the bus hit this stop when it was supposed to? We have shifted the way that we are measuring that on time. Now that we have our AVL system, we have the GPS units in the buses, and we have the software to identify where they're at and what time they get there. And what we're doing now is we are shifting our focus to try to measure on-time performance for every stop in our system, all 1,500 stops. And the reason we're doing that, in the conversations that I've been able to have with our operators over the last 2 weeks, I've been speaking with the operators in our safety meetings, is we want to do a better job of measuring what the customer experiences. And so if we can come up with a way to see how we are doing system-wide, is that a more accurate reflection of the level of service we're delivering. So this is our baseline. We expect it to go up. I kind of think of it as now we're keeping score, and we know what it is, and my message has been, let's work to improve it. Now, we have done just some preliminary benchmarking, just looking at what some other agencies' on-time performance is. And it's always difficult because you don't know if you're really comparing apples to apples. But, you know, the 70-75% range are some numbers that I've seen out there. And again, who knows what they're actually measuring? Are they measuring just, you know, certain corridors, certain times of the day? But I agree it's a number that we want to increase.
And when you're saying on time, are they doing exact times, or is it within 10 minutes? Or?
Actually, for a bus to be considered on time, it has to arrive at the stop no earlier than 1 minute before its scheduled time and no later than 5 minutes after its scheduled time. So it's a pretty tight window, and we purposefully instruct our operators, we would rather you be 2 to 3 minutes late to the stop than 5 minutes early, because that's when somebody, right, that's when they missed the bus and they don't even know it got there. They think they're still waiting on it. So it is a pretty tight window, about 6 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Long-range plan, Larry?
Good morning. Last time I tried to be very, very, very brief. I'd like to take just a little bit more time today. You know, if you look at that report, you'll see a little bit about coordination with MAPS regarding the streetcar project. And, you know, as you know, there are basically evaluations are underway on the streetcar vehicles. In fact, Trustee Sempner told me there's an article in the paper today about the different streetcar vehicles. But those evaluations are going on this month. You know, the MAPS office and the consultants, URS and Jacobs, have continued doing a lot of preliminary engineering. Even though, you know, that route was selected about a year ago, there are those streets like Broadway where you have angled parking, issues like where do you put a stop close to St. Anthony, since there's an emergency room entrance that has to be considered. Things like that have continued to be ongoing. And, you know, even though you all know this, yeah, the general route of a streetcar is Midtown to Bricktown. You know, last month, in terms of trying to further awareness of regional long-range planning and the fixed guideway plan, I know that Jason had an opportunity to speak to a very large crowd at the Greater OKC Chamber retreat, and they were there, you know, along with ACOG and others talking about the possible futures for public transportation. ACOG's regional transit dialogue process, their steering committee pretty well finished its work for RTD2, but there's still a finance and governance subcommittee that meets occasionally to try to start thinking about next steps towards regional transit. Aside from these types of presentations, I kind of wanted to follow up on something we mentioned last time about how another way to try to get a better sense of what the future of transit can be is through experience. And last month, Cotpa staff had a chance to go to San Antonio and Austin with the ULI, Urban Land Institute local chapter. And Cotpa was able to get the VIA transit officials to do a great presentation about their plans and about their new transit hub. And one of the things I think people found very interesting is VIA was willing to bring one of their bus rapid transit vehicles, you know, the ones that are about twice as long as ours and articulated. And it was a good group of people. Everybody went on board the bus, sat down, looked at the extra wide doors, the way that it feels and looks more like a rail car on the inside the way that from the exterior it has more of a bullet, streamlined appearance. And it was good because, some of the folks involved there were like Steve Mason, who's the chair of that Chamber Transportation Committee, local media, and others. And that was good because they really had a sense of not just what we're sometimes trying to explain to them, but they got to actually experience the vehicle, which is a key. Bus Rapid Transit in the Cotpa Fixed Guideway study has a good application on a number of corridors where it's maybe very hard to afford rail or great to start with some type of a BRT option. The other thing I was just going to mention is it also gave a chance to talk a little bit about that need for long-term funding, a more stable funding source for transit. Most people know that, but in one-to-one conversations with a group like that, it kind of helps a lot to help them understand. The final thing I was just going to mention was about night service. Even though it's true it's really not yet been time to do like that full-on promotion of the service, it's been important to get out with groups like the OKC Black Chamber, the World in the Windsor District, out around 23rd and Meridian, and with the Hispanic Chamber, just to make sure that their leadership is aware that the Route 11 or the Route 23 is really going through a district where their businesses and various apartments and stuff are. So, that's helpful so that when we do, as we go on, we know that those leaders are more engaged. With that, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions, but sorry it was a little bit longer this time.
All right, Larry, and we did have a discussion yesterday in our transportation meeting about some long-range planning ideas to kind of help us some idea of what's going on, so we'll hopefully get those implemented then. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Parking system.
Well, we continue to remain about the 115%, as you can see from the report. Next month, we'll start reporting on the Arts District garage as well, but I can give you an update. We currently have 448 monthly parkers. I've got 200 coming in that we know of for sure, and we have a waiting list of 373. So, like we said, I don't think there's any problem that the garage is going to be full. So, it's not going to change as much. We're also in the busy season of our events. We've got now, 2 basketball teams, a hockey team, and all that going on all at the same time. So we've been really busy. Also working with Arts Council on the opening night. Several events going on and around downtown. On the construction side, I kind of gave you an update already on Century Center. Santa Fe, we've awarded the contract, as you know, for the elevator replacement. They are mobilized. They're getting ready to start. I believe, I was trying to get this confirmed before I got up here, but I wasn't able to, but I believe they said it would be 4 to 6 weeks per elevator for the replacement, so that one will only shut down one at a time. I've got them working in the old whole enchilada place so that they can go ahead and do what all they need to do inside, climate controlled, and then they'll be working on the elevators. Sheridan Walker, that's continuing on, should be finished by the end of the year or first middle part of January. They've got a big pour going on this weekend. We've got a lot of spaces that they've exposed and, went in and jackhammered, and so now they're ready to pour the concrete on that. The stairs have been ordered. They'll be working on that side of it probably after the 1st. So, let's see, Arts District, we're still working on punch list, still working on a temporary CO. Hopefully we'll get that. We've got some sign issues and some other regulatory, I guess I would say, issues, but we're working on it. We're getting through that. So, and I believe that's it.
Debbie, just to clarify, we have a temporary CO.
Yes.
We'll just be wanting to extend.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. We have a temporary CO. We'll be extending that.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Don't we normally approve something about the fireworks from one of the garages? Are they not doing that this year on opening night?
That's a good question. That might have just slipped.
I'm pretty sure they are doing fireworks. I'm pretty sure they changed the location of where it goes off. It will not be off the garage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
We're meeting on Wednesday, next Wednesday, with the Arts Council, and I know last year they shot them off at the site, the Arts Council site. But, you know, that's a good question. I'm going to have to check that.
Thought about it.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Marketing and customer relations and technology.
Good morning.
Morning.
What I'd like to share with you during my time this morning is...
This group, it could be any group really, your scout troop.
Yeah, automatically plays, is a video that we've been working on for our Road Scholars program. As you probably recall, that program is aimed at our schools, educational groups, or youth groups that would like to use the service, existing service that we have, and they can use that to go on a field trip or to different educational opportunities they might have as part of their program. In the past, we've had requests for informational pieces or and/or videos that would outline the program, and we've especially had a request from the public school systems to provide something that they could show to their teachers and their principals to help encourage use of the program. This is one of a series of videos that we're working on right now. Another is an updated how to ride and how to use the technology tools that we looked at last time. And that I hope to show that to you in January, maybe February at the latest. But you should probably get used to watching a few videos between now and then. So here's the Road Scholars video.
This group, it could be any group really, your scout troop, youth group. This group is about to embark on a field trip. But they won't fight the hassles of travel plans, no. They will leave the driving to someone else, and it's free. They are Road Scholars, and they are the masters of disguise. Hello! Hello. To see how the Masters of Disguise has secured their free field trip transportation, we journey now into the not-too-distant past. Having determined their destination and the date, by secret ballot, of course, they went online to apply, answering questions like, how many are in your group? How many students and how many adults? They entered their destination and date, and revealed the location of their secret meeting place from which they would begin. Armed with this information, Embark helped them plan their adventure using already scheduled Embark buses. Before their field trip, the Masters of Disguise picked up the top secret package Embark had prepared for them, which included Road Scholar passes, trip itinerary, schedules, and riding etiquette. They were all set. The Masters of Disguise arrive at the bus stop departure point early. They enter the bus. A lesson in how to use public transit and how using Embark can improve our air quality while saving them money on parking, gas, insurance, and wear and tear on their vehicles. They are using existing routes, joining other riders, meeting new and interesting people. Soon, they arrive at their field trip destination. Now that was easy. Their visit concluded, they just follow the itinerary to the bus stop for their return trip back to their starting point. Like the Masters of Disguise, your group can become Road Scholars. No disguises needed.
What?
Start planning your adventure today.
A fun part of that video was all the kids were either kids of our bus operators or employees or grandchildren. So it's great to be able to feature them and include them in this part.
And Michael, just we had 3 Road Scholar trips this week. Is that right?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. So we had, just to give you a sense, we had 3 this week. I think we had 1 last week. So it kind of comes in spurts, but people, or I should say, organizations are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, we usually see peaks around where schools have basically they're winding down for the end of the semester, so this time of year especially, they've probably finished major coursework and are scheduling field trips and that sort of thing. And again, the spring is usually a really big time as well. And we've also, you'll probably recall, we've included the river cruises now as part of the overall program. And you've seen 2 of those as well. So we expect over the next year that to grow as well. And then we are also working pretty heavily on all the system changes that will be taking place this next January. We have a few, in addition to the night changes, we have a few of the routes that we're just going to make just minor little tweaks to the times and the schedules. So that requires us to revamp a lot of that material, just as we normally do every time we have a sign-up, which is about twice a year. So that's kind of what's on at the top of our project list right now. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The piece that you showed us, it is linked on our website?
It will be. It's not at this moment. We want to show it to you first, and there's a couple of things that they're still just tweaking that you would not probably ever notice, but I do.
I was impressed with the hook and information components there. We can also link that thing to other folks' websites so that...
Certainly. And we've had interest from the public school. They have an outlet in which they send out videos to their teachers and principals, and that'll be made available to them.
All right, Michael.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, our last report is our river cruises.
Okay, October was a very good month. We're very pleased with the efficiencies we've been able to create. We're at 11.9 riders per service hour, and of course our target is 10. That being said, December is an extremely slow month. We're lucky to get 50 riders in the entire month, and it's a strain on the budget, which, as you can see, was about 6% above where it needed to be. Therefore, we did suspend ferry service for the month of December. We've had 2 requests for service, so it's obviously a very light month, very low demand month. It does not only help with the budget and help with our efficiency. The locks and dams that run on hydraulic systems and are very sensitive to ice formation, we put a strain on those every year when we try to run in December. So we'll be helping out Public Works in that area as well by not having ferry service. We still do charters, and we have charters booked for December. They just won't go through the locks unless Public Works deems that it's appropriate to do so. With that, I would like to give you a brief update on the Spokies project. Beginning next month, we'll have a more full and complete report for you. With your approval of the contract today, our new operator will begin on January 5th. The gentleman who is coming is from the B-Cycle Group, which is a very large system. They operate in Denver and multiple systems across the United States. And the CEO is from Alta Bike Share, which was one of the first bike share systems in the United States. So we're very pleased to have some very experienced operators working with us to help us work through some of our system issues. In the meantime, we have set up a station at the Midtown Holiday Pop-Up Shops. The event coordinators for that event had called and said that they have many bicyclists that show up there. They have even Spokies riders that show up there, and we put a station out there. And of course, we have a temporary station just specifically for that purpose. So we had it set up out there. This particular system is also being used to test a new modem. The modems we were using were they were below 3G, so anytime you get a group of people on their cell phones around a Spokie station, the station can't communicate. So we're upgrading the modem so that the communication is reestablished. Also, the library station was on the north side of the building, got a lot of shade. These batteries are recharged with sunlight. So they were unable to recharge, and our maintenance technician was constantly having to go out and change out the batteries with freshly charged batteries. As part of Project 180, the station was planned to be moved around the corner onto Hudson. And so we got permission from Public Works to just go ahead and make that change so that we could make that battery and system work more efficiently. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Good. Do I hear a motion to receive our program reports? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right. Any comments by any of the trustees?
I'd like to once again, and I guess the redundancy here is appalling, but I'd like to once again say what a great job I think staff is doing in growing the entity's service mechanism. We are a service entity, and I like the idea that everywhere we look throughout this entity, what we're seeing is that our services are growing, that people are noticing that we are doing a better job, that we are striving to make their lives a little bit easier. My wife keeps telling me that I should be careful not to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just a guy with a big head who sits here and nods constantly. I just think that those guys are doing a great job, and I'd like to once again commend the entire staff that we have at every level in this entity for the hard work that they put in and the great things that are coming out the other end from that work. Guys are doing a great job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, it is kind of remarkable. Over 1 million passengers the first 4 months of the year. And that's quite a growth. All right. Jason?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, I wanted to follow up with a little bit of more information on the FTA drug and alcohol audit that we just went through. We actually ended up scoring very well. It was my first time through one of those audits, and I had asked the reviewers, I said, where are we? Are we A, B, C? And they said, you guys are doing a really good job. You have a very sound program. We have a few things that we've got to work on as with any audit. The policy that we adopted today, the changes to that policy were a very big part of that. We've got to work with our contractors that actually do the drug and alcohol testing a little bit to make sure they're filling out the forms correctly. So just some housekeeping things. But what I wanted to recognize was our HR staff, in particular Deonda Browder, who schedules all of our random drug and alcohol tests. The reviewers said that the process that we use is one of the best that they've seen, because the goal of that program is to make them truly random. So when you plot out the days and the times of these tests, it should be just scattered all over. And when they looked at ours, they said, this is one of the best that we've seen. We'll probably use this as a tool to show people. So again, we have work to do. It wasn't a perfect audit by any means. We have some things we can do to be better. But that was one of the highlights, and I just wanted to recognize our staff for that.
All right. Thank you, Jason. All right. Well, I think that's the end of our meeting. I hope everybody has a nice holiday and a Merry Christmas, and we will see you next year.